All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Turning the Groove. What we have here today is a nice piece of elm, which we're gonna get turned up here in just a second. But first of all, how do I know it's elm? It stinks. It really stinks. It's probably the closest thing that we have here in North America to an exotic wood, and it's got quite a pungent smell to it when you turn it and when you cut it. And so this particular piece happens to look like it may be a burl, but I think it's just a branch that started growing out, got cut, and then a burl-like structure started to grow around it. So it's actually got some really, really cool patterning here too, and you can see some inflections that have shown it their way as I put it through the bandsaw. And so I'm ready to get this thing on the lathe and get it turning. So we'll see you in a second. I decided to chuck it up because it really was starting to rot through the middle. This must have been a pithy part of the branch because it was just straight rotten through there. So the meat of the wood around the edges here was a little bit more well constructed and was able to give me some bite. So that's the option I'm opting for. I don't have a lot of other good options. As you can see, this side is quite gnarly too, and so getting something to stick there is not a great option for me. The best I can do is have the end stock piece hold it into place to give it some more balance, but I'm going to put this onto the lathe, give it a spin, and let's see where it goes from here. Fly off just now, and I just wanted to show you how kind of cool this is. You can see how it's moved around and grown around the tree there, and it's just got this really cool patterning in it. It gave me a little bit of a scare. Probably should have removed that prior to me turning it, so I think I will remove the rest of it here, or at least give it a shot at removing it, because I don't know that I want another piece of that flying off my face. Let's just see if we can pry it off to some extent here, just so I don't have little chunks flying off. I do kind of like the idea of leaving some of it on, depending on how this bolt turns out, but these big old chunks like this that I'm assured to have fly off into my face, I do want to get rid of. Which it's actually looking like most of that is going to be the case, but there is some that is looking to be pretty interwoven, like right in here. Maybe I can get this off too. Just not sure how deep I'm going to go with this, but boy is that pretty. Really, really cool patterning and inclusions here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and leave this part. It's not coming off particularly easy, and it could end up being part of what the finished product is. So I'm going to keep turning it here and get it a little bit more into shape so it's not so unbalanced, and we'll see what comes next. made some good progress on this. It's starting to get into the shape that I want. And at this point, I'm going to get a little hole carved into the middle here using the old Jacob's chuck, which is named after me. Actually, it's not named after me, but it does happen to be called the Jacob's chuck. And this Forstner bit, which is a 2 1/4 bit used for hollowing out. So you just take this in here, tighten it up like so. Get it on there real nice and tight. Put it in here and get the beginnings of hollowing it out so that I can get my wonderful Robert Sorby, I believe, hollower in there and kind of work it from the inside. So that's the plan. I don't know how it's going to work. There's some pretty intricate pieces here that I have to work around, and that could be a challenge, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. It's coming along pretty nicely. I need to put the old Jacob's chuck on there again and hollow it out through the center a little bit more. It's holding up pretty well. I'll probably go a little bit thinner on the sides, but not a whole lot, just because I want to maintain some of this nice character. The other thing that I didn't show, which is going to be kind of gross to some of you, but I'll say it anyway. There were some little caterpillar worms in here that I had to extract out. I did not kill them. They are surviving and out in the wilderness again, but you'll run into that from time to time with your wood, and it's just part of the process when you're dealing with this semi-wet wood. Although this is pretty dry, there still happens to be some critters here and there that are crawling around, and they seem to surface out when you start spinning this thing at about 600 RPM. So anyway, this is where we're at. We're going to keep going here and get a little bit deeper and hollow it out a little bit more and see what we find inside. So here you can see where I've put some CA glue onto the cracks to tighten it up for some additional sanding. And it's pretty much into shape at this point. I do need to put a bottom piece of elm on here because unfortunately I broke through the bottom. It was just so rotten that it went straight through. So that is a to be done part that I need to get to soon. But beyond that, I'm going to go ahead and get this sanded up. And then we'll get the bottom piece, a piece of elm that I have over here, which I think is gonna look really nice. It'll be a different grain pattern, but the same species, and we'll put this on the bottom as the base. And it should be pretty much ready to go. So let's get to the sanding.